Okay, Ian Stokey, proprietor of Mastermind Games back, and today paying a Tau XV88 Broadside Battlesuit. So, starting off, at the end of my Crisis Suit video a while back, I forgot to do the compare contrast as I promised. So we're going to fix that. These are the original sculpts for the Tau Commander and Tau Broadside, which are literally just the original Crisis sculpt with extra metal bits for the Broadside's guns and smart missiles, and the Commander having different weapons, the air-bursting fragmentation projector and cyclic ion blaster, and variant heads. Comparing to the new Crisis suit, the new one's about the same mass, but on a better base or larger base, and has better articulation for more elaborate posing. And the new Broadside, as you can see, is much more massive, especially compared to the original, and looks much less like a Crisis suit with a few extra add-ons and more like its own iteration. And this is the new sculpt for the Commander. I will be getting to that later on after a Death Guard and Ultramarines video. But you can see again on the new Commander they made it much more massive, as well as changing the weapons a bit, with this being the new version of the cyclic ion blaster. And on those older models, that's an older style of painting I used to do, where I just did base coats and a wash of black to fill in the gaps, but as you can see, it's not quite as nice as what I'm doing now. So let's go ahead and get started with 09089 Cloudy Gray. And since this is such a large model, we'll use a bigger brush. Where's the one I'm looking? There it is. This should take less time than the troop video since it's just a single model this time. So get in around the neck, that eye there. Kind of go inside that vent. Then go on the back for its generator. In fact, I'll just go ahead and do the whole generator in the gray for now, though I'll probably pick out other colors later. Well, definitely, since there will be lighting effects, probably put some blue on there too, since that's the color scheme I'm going for. See here, yeah, we'll go ahead and do this as well. I may or may not pick this out in another color later, or you get what I'm saying. Go ahead and go into the shoulders. Get the elbows. think I'll do the gun last because I'm not exactly sure what I want to pick out in gray and what I want in blue right yet. I think I just slaughtered the English language again there. Get a little more paint. Alright, getting the leg here, including the stabilizing anchor. It's okay to get a little rough on this coat. It'll be refined when I start picking out other colors. Go ahead and go underneath and get this kind of hip pelvis area in the gray and just pick out the armor hard plates in blue later. Going in and around the midsection. And let's see, this shoulder, I will go ahead and let's see here. So this shoulder turret mounts the secondary weapon system now, which per current rules is either going to be a pair of plasma rifles or a pair of smart missile systems. I will eventually get multiples of this. I will pump this, I essentially will eventually do 2 units, one armed with the heavy rail rifles, another armed with the high-yield missile pods. So I'm not, again, as I said in my previous orc videos and Tau videos, I'm not planning on painting every single thing I buy when it comes to duplicates, unless there's actual demand. So just note in the comments if you want to see me do a broadside with a smart missile system eventually, or any other variants, but again, not planning on it. And then this is a new feature for the broadside's new sculpt, and that's it can take a smart missile. Really wondering what their relics are going to look like, their stratagems, but this slot can also accommodate a support system, but the rules say it doesn't have to forego a support system to take a smart missile. There's nowhere else to actually physically mount one. Fortunately, Games Workshop has gotten away from the WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get rule, where you had to have the specific pieces on. That was actually a thing in earlier editions, wherein unit could not have equipment that was not visually, physically represented on the model. Which is honestly, it's honestly kind of ridiculous. Now they don't really care as much anymore, but it was pretty nuts, especially when you get into all these models that have these wildly different options available to them. I mean, orc knobs and boss knobs, and most Space Marine leaders, sergeants especially, have a whole buffet of options to pick from. Crisis suits have a ton. This gets a little nutty when you've got to physically keep all that represented. While it is handy, the no proxy rule, I get it for tournaments, but still kind of very odd. And in the older Crisis and Broadside kits, for example, they actually listed on the package what part was what system, and they don't really do that now. They show the weapons, but not the support systems. Which again, it's just kind of, it was kind of an odd rule. I'll be picking out the barrels of this in blue later, but I'm going to go ahead for now anyway and hit that interior with the gray. Get the inside of this sensor with the gray. And just making sure I get thorough on this heavy rail rifle. The first incarnation of the Broadside, this was a full-size railgun, same as mount on the Hammerhead, so it was downgraded in subsequent iterations, which is fine because it's still a big, nasty, heavy ranged hit. And on this smart missile, I think I'll go ahead and pick out these engines here in the gray. Yeah, I'm talking a lot more about this because this was always one of my favorite models. Just big, clunky battlesuit with a really big gun. Alright, and then... actually, that's pretty good. Just kind of jab at the underside of the generators here a little bit more with the leftover paint. And let that dry and we'll start picking out another color. Alright, 09017 True Blue. Hopefully I've got enough to finish the job. This one's running a bit thin. Using a smaller brush on this since I'm picking out finer details here. We'll start on the head and now on those older models that I showed off in the start of the video, I will eventually repaint those. I'm not sure when. Though I probably will not show that. Again, unless there is actual demand to see a repainting video on an older kit that's unavailable. Getting in and around the base of the neck. Getting the inside of that shield. Let's see here. Just takes a lot of fine motor control to be able to get some of these details here. And then probably some repaint part of this gray here. Just along like that. Picking out the housing for the generator here. Careful in here on this sensor. Don't want to nick the gray on the plasma rifles. I'm going to pick out the barrels. Just try not to nick the gray on these panels I picked out off camera. Sometimes you're going to change your mind on how you want to paint something partway through. While you can paint over something in another color to a certain extent, if you do that too much, you'll obscure details under layers of paint. So if you are going to completely repaint a model, you should strip the paint, the older paint off first. And when I do that, I use a compound called Simple Green, which is a biodegradable cleaning compound. You want to soak that for a few days, and then using stiff cleaning brushes, just scrape off the paint. Sorry, I'm getting a little tongue-tied. I apologize for that. It'll usually take like a couple of months to get everything off completely, depending on how old the paint is, how thorough the primer coat is, etc. And I've got some War Machine Protector of Menoth and Khador models I've recently stripped the paint off that I will eventually be doing videos on. But okay, now for this generator, I'm going to go ahead and pick out this outer ring in the blue, but leave this component gray there. Just carefully doing the outer rim here. Being careful that the paint isn't too thick. Again, you want your brush moist, not overly wet. At least not at this stage anyway. That's pretty good. I think I'm fine with this box being gray. And the seeker missile here. Make sure I'm actually in view of the camera. Might want to backtrack and do those vents in gray, those air intakes. That's got the bulk of the missile. I'll pick out a few little panels in another color later on. Head and get the... pick out this armored plate here. Then on the front, these. Probably gonna need a little more paint. So I was actually going to retire the older Crisis and Broadside suits I have, but mostly because of the disparity in base sizes between the original sculpts and the newer ones. But since I've started collecting Space Marines, I've noticed the disparity in kits there. I don't care as much. So the one detail on the older Broadside that I do like better than the new one is the feet on the older Broadside looked much more solid and stable. While this has feet that are, oh boy, more or less identical to what the Crisis suits have, though with that stabilizing anchor, the back of the ankle. Oh boy. I hope I have enough of this to finish the job. That might do it. Maybe. It's a little trickier since the anchor is embedded in the ground on this one. So I'm trying to get the foot, not the anchor. I think I got that a little thick. Okay, it's got that. Alright, that just leaves the arms. Being careful around the elbow joint here. And the shoulder joint. Not worried about the faction symbol right now, since that will be picked out in black and white at the end as a detail. So I got that way too thick right there. You can see all bunched up. Being careful around that elbow joint. Okay. That was a little tricky. That just leaves the right arm in the cannon. Got that too thick again, I gotta watch that. Alright. Well, we should be getting a new Tau Codex and Orc Codex next year sometime, since GW has done a pretty good job of getting things updated. The last Tau Codex... Okay, let's see here. This is a little funny. Suppose I'll Yeah, this is kind of odd the way this is configured, so I think I'll do this. Anyway, in the last Tau Codex, they stated that pilots who recently earned the right to pilot a battlesuit cut their teeth on a broadside before moving up to a stealth or crisis suit, or one of the other variants that have since come out. This is more than a little unusual back here. I think that's a detail they mixed up. I'm going to have to redo that in gray, I think. Usually you don't see this inattentiveness in a GW kit, but you can kind of see on the back here it's all flat and not sculpted. Making it harder to differentiate what is what. GW usually doesn't make those kind of oversights. I'm starting to get a little tongue-tied. Just been strung out. Go ahead and just do this whole sensor over in blue. I'm guessing they thought either no one would notice or no one would care, but... And then, what else? I definitely want to do this from the get-go, but... question is, what other colors do I want to pick out in... or what other sections do I want to pick out in blue on the rifle? Yeah, probably this here. For the sake of visual interest. I think this boxy section down here as well. Yeah, Yeah, that's pretty good. We'll take the gray again. I'm just kind of touch up behind here. Again, this is just kind of odd how flat this is on the back side. It really goes against the grain of most GW kits. Let's go ahead and carefully, it's still a little wet here, pick this out again, and that'll look fine once everything's shaded and highlighted. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty good. So, just got a couple more base coats to pick out next, and we'll start shading. Okay, now gonna pick out a few details, starting with 09050 Antique Gold. Get this detail on the Seeker missile. There's another one on the back I want to do. Let's see here, and then gonna leave most of the rim on this piece. That'll do. And then 09026 Violet Red. We'll pick out a few panels here and there to give him some distinct markings, I suppose is the right way of saying it. Still, I think we got that a little thick. Pick out one of these panels here. And let's see, I think this panel here. And not pretty good so far. Then can't really see the front too well. Not with that big rail rifle in the way. So we'll do this. Yeah, it'll be okay, just like that. Go ahead and get the same panel on the opposite side. Do I want to? Clean that up, and now go ahead and see here. I'll pick out a few things on the missile. Do that, and the nose cone, I think. Go ahead and just do this little section of the knee, I think, to get a little of that color on this side. And go ahead and do this kind of stripe down the center. center of the head on that ridge. This kid had like 3 or 4 different heads. And that's part of the antenna, I think. This is a little tricky for me right now because my hand is really twitchy today. Now, let's see. Oh, that's pretty good. We'll call it good at that on this secondary color. So that's base coats. After this dries, it's on to shading. Alright, time to shade. Where is it? 09025 Burgundy Wine. Let's start on that violet red sept color. Clogged up a bit. When I say sept, in the codexes, at least the older ones, the Tau refer to each planet or section under their control as a sept, S-E-P-T. Most of their color schemes, at least officially, are basically simple camouflage for their duties, or yeah, whatever combat zone they happen to be in, really, with the addition of a color representing their home world. Okay. Then the gold with 09049 antique bronze. Or, sorry, ancient bronze. Try that again. It's just got a little too thick there. Right. Okay, once that's dried, I can move on to the blue. Okay, 09016 Sapphire Blue. Let's clear the nozzle there. Oh, where to start? And I will pick out the Tau faction symbol on that antenna later. It'll be done as a detail. Just gotta take some caution around the areas I've already done with the red and gold. And I just realized I forgot a bit of the gold earlier. Take a second to fix that real quick with that ancient bronze 09049. And I should be okay. So by the time that might be done with this color by the time that dries. Or I think you get what I'm saying, I'm a little rattled. Gotta watch that, I might have nicked something I didn't want to. I'm going to take a second and blot out some of the excess near that pelvis. Going to get the back side of that shoulder turret. And yes, I am holding this at a kind of an odd angle to try to facilitate the actual filming. Make it easier for you to see what the heck I'm doing. In retrospect, I should have done those air intakes in gray. I think I'll go ahead and fix that off camera before I do the last layer of shading, which would be the gray itself. And then carefully around here. I just want to get the blue, not the gold or the violet red. Okay, it's not quite ready, but I'll hold off on doing any more of the gun until I get the arms and legs finished. Yeah, can't really see the color in the underside of the pauldron, but I'm going to put some in there anyway. Okay, looks like the front plate on the pelvis is good. Go ahead and hit that. And I put it that way because this thing doesn't technically have a crotch. It is just a machine. Though armoring the pelvis on a walker would be very important because that's where the hip joint is. If that takes a hit, well, you're not going to have any legs. I think I have exactly enough paint out to get the job done. Well, maybe not. Go ahead and get a little more out. As I said a minute ago, this one is about shot. I'll have to get it replaced soon. Nicked the gray there a little bit. This foot is a little trickier because the anchor is down. The anchor is this little bit on the back of the heel. And the purpose of that would be to help ground and stabilize the battlesuit, help absorb the recoil of its heavy weapons. And speaking of, Alright, how am I going to do this? Where am I going to start? Nick the foot a bit with my finger. Just this little bit of blue on the barrel here. Okay, that's got the blue. Once that dries, I can do the gray, then get set up for the lighting effects. I'll touch up those air intakes on the missile off camera. Okay, 09088 Stormy Gray. Finish up the shading. Carefully. I already nicked the blue. Around the head here. Inside the vent. And inside those vents. Just in the waist. Sorry I'm not more talkative right now, but I just got off the phone on a very aggravating series of conversations that just are real downers. That got a little excessive right there in the strut. Okay, that's got it. And then kind of under the shoulder there. Just about done. That side, hit the elbow. This work gets kind of nutty. Getting a little more paint. And this is a little tricky here because of the angle of the gun compared to the body. He does have it held fairly close. Let's get this offhand here. Just about done. I'll get the gray inside the barrels here. I will do some kind of lighting effect. Probably in the dead center. Okay. Once that's dry, I can start getting the lighting effects ready. Okay. Get set up for some lighting effects with 09039 pure white. That should be enough. Carefully picking out the eye in the center of the head. Then using a little more pure paint. Go ahead and get the faction symbols. This one on the chest is covered up mostly by the gun, so I won't see it as well. I do like the sculpted faction symbols better than the ones that are just decals or have to be painted on by hand. But that's me. But honestly, I've never had much of a problem with getting water slide decals on up until that Primaris and Scepter video a while back. That was strange for me. Okay, now look at these sensors here. And here on the rail rifle. It's a little bit off to the side. And also I won't lit up. Thin that out a little bit and get it carefully right in here. For the generator. Let's see, then go ahead and put it in the slots here. And along in here. And let's see. But and along these, for lack of a better word, teeth inside the barrel. So, fun fact, the Railgun is a concept that's been around for a while, and the US military is trying to develop one. But essentially, it accelerates a solid metal projectile using a series of electromagnets set up in a rail to hypersonic speeds causing damage through pure kinetic force. So before too long, a railgun could be more than just sci-fi. Let's see here. Just making sure I didn't miss anything I want to get in this. A little more of the white, I think, and along the track. Actually, that's pretty good. Let that dry and we'll do the lighting effects and then start highlighting, finish up the details. Alright, 09005 Phoenix Red. This one's about shut, but I'm pretty sure I got a spare on hand. Don't need much anyway. Get that thinned out. It's going to go on visual sensors. So just dab it in a layer at a time. To get the glowing effect, you want it lighter in the center, darker around the rim. That's pretty good. And then lemon yellow 09009. We'll put this on the other sensors and equipment, or most of it anyway. There we go, so I'll let that flow into the power pack here. There, and kind of use this to glaze the magnets or accelerators, whatever word you prefer, on the inside there. Go ahead and glaze the entirety of the interior barrel here. Then going back to that red again, nick the sensors here, there. Then the rest, yeah, let that dry, and then we'll start doing some highlights and details. Alright, 09090 Misty Gray. This one's about cash, but I got a spare on hand. Just make the most annoying sounds when they're about out. Okay. That's fine. Exactly why I got ahead, or I got the spare. Right. Like all new pots of paint, this takes a minute to mix thoroughly. Okay, now that's enough to work with, at least to start. Again, standard dry brushing, just rub it on the towel till it looks about gone. It's a little too much paint. I don't rate as much on the interior surfaces there as I am the exterior. Get the elbow. Not as much around the head and neck. Kind of hit those vents in the shoulders a little bit. Go a little nuts on the rail rifle. Okay. Just about done with the gray already. Hands getting a little twitchy. I've been working myself to exhaustion at work lately because of escalating demands, and I have been getting very twitchy physically lately. Okay, and that does get all the gray now. I'm going to rinse that out very thoroughly. I don't want any gray in it. I'm going to dry it thoroughly too. We're using this again. ASAP and Sky Blue 09018. Oh, I just realized I forgot a little bit of the gray here. Just want to get a bit back there. So that was my mistake. It's got it. Get my brush thoroughly dried. That should be enough to do the job. Alright, starting off on the feet. Trying to stretch my arm out. Like I said, I've been really twitchy as of late. Not going to worry as much about the torso here, at least not the front anyway, since it's largely obscured by the rifle. Yeah, I don't know what I've been doing to my arm lately, but it's... making sure to get the sides since they're much more visible. Getting it back there. realize I forgot to start the symbol fashion on the antenna. I'll take care of that in a minute. Get the head started. Take a second to take some pure white and get that antenna faction symbol started real quick here while I finish up the highlighting on the blue. By the time I finish, it should be about ready for the detail there. Just taking pure white to 09039, I think. Dehydrated. Too much paint. Don't worry about that little booger there. It'll come out when I hit the red-violet. Also got these little antenna on the legs here. I'll just knock that out real quick, just like that. It's the blue. this one. And then 09027 Pale Violet Red. And only a little bit of this. The knee there. The plates I picked out earlier. Yep, just the nose cone now. Fin on the back. Zero 9051 new gold. Again, lightly dusting on a circular area, generally going in a circular motion, kind of burnishing it. I'm going to use more straight paint here as opposed to dried out to cover up some of the blue that got nicked on here. And then 09037 pure black. This one's jammed up. plasma rifle barrels. Carefully. Yeah, getting that secondary viewport. Yeah, it's carefully picking out part of that badge. Making sure to leave light this. Okay. This is tricky anyway, and my hands are really twitchy today for some reason. I've been fatigued a lot lately. Overwork and overstressed. Not ready to say where my madness-inducing day job is yet, but I will as soon as I can afford to walk away. It'll be as soon as Mastermind Games consistently makes money. I feel that I won't have to work that day job anymore. And obviously, it's easier to pick out larger surface areas like this than it is smaller ones. And that looks really nice. Just get a little black neat deep inside of the thrusters for the smart missile. And this doesn't look quite as good as I first thought, so we'll just do the very interior barrels in the black, like that. Okay, before I decide to finish up, let's make sure I got everything I want. Yep. Now using a larger brush, go around the circumference of the base. This will just give it a more polished look. The color here is completely arbitrary. As I said earlier, I think in previous video, that on most of the other games I play, I actually pick out a faction-specific color for this. But generally a neutral like a white, gray, black, or some kind of earth tone will work best, I think. Okay, let that dry and base it. Okay, basing time. White glue. I don't think I got this opened up enough. That's better. Plenty of water. Mixing it up thoroughly. Then painting around the base, taking care around the feet and toes. probably using a brush that's a bit too small for this, but it's okay. And if you hear that beeping, don't worry about that. That's just my lunch in the microwave getting ready. Okay, that should do it. Dip it in the rock debris I want to use. Okay, that's not bad. It's pretty good actually, but there's a few spots I want to touch up. Right there. Here on the edge. Okay, so another dip. That's better. Not even all that much I need to brush away. Just a tiny bit near the anchor. Okay. One little bare spot I need to get right near that anchor. That's going to be my bane on this one. Okay, it's better. Now I'm going to let that dry, but I am going to do some static grass, so I'm going to pick a spot to put that, I think behind the back here. Just clear a space for it. Dipping the brush in water and pushing it away. So once that's dried a bit, we'll do some static grass. Alright, time to add some static grass. Got our divot there for it. Hobby tack. This is kind of a rubber cement-like adhesive, only a little stronger. This pot's about shot. And the grass itself. I'm going to pull that out. Snip off the length we want. Touch that up a little more. And dip the ends in the glue. Whoa. And I'm going to carefully kind of hold it up in the area. Well, actually that worked out better than I thought. It usually doesn't go this well on the first try. So we got to let that dry completely. And then we're going to trim down the grass some more and seal the base. Okay, last step is to seal the basing materials. So scenic cement, where's that eyedropper? Oh, getting ahead of myself. I'm going to trim this flock down a little bit, so we'll just take these tiny little scissors and, as opposed to going in at perfectly manicured, we'll go at an angle to make it look more rough. That looks a bit better. Okay, now the scenic cement and an eyedropper. And like every other video, just carefully drop that in around the feet. The whole thing looking moist. If you go too far, you'll end up with gaps. That'll do it. Clean out the eyedropper, but just run it through water a few times. And that's it, a fully painted Tau XV88 Broadside Battlesuit. Now again, comparing scale-wise, there's the Crisis suit from the earlier video. You can see how much more physically massive it is. And comparing to the older Broadside sculpt, again, you can argue it's almost twice as big, and definitely much more impressive and imposing. So that's it for this. Next time, getting back into the Dark Imperium box set. Until then, I am Ian Stuckey of Mastermind Games, signing out.